Project Lawful aka Planecrash by Arwayne aka Eliezer Yudkowsky and Lintamande. My fun research project has more existential risk than I anticipated. Episode 124.
While Savar sleeps, Asmodia sets up their first prediction markets. There's 3 rolling prediction markets on whether Tonya, Peranza, or any other researcher break in the next week, which Tonya and Peranza aren't to know the current forecasts on. Asmodia requested, and Mailiol backed her, that every security be required to bet at least 1 silver in all 3 markets, since they're the ones reading people's thoughts. If the 3rd market starts to go high, she'll start creating markets for the other girls. Security was not, in fact, particularly reluctant to start betting in this market. Peranza is running at 10%, Tonya at 5%. There's a market about whether Yaisa ends up with an incredibly interesting background or problem or superpowers on account of tropes, since she apparently matched one of Keltham's fetishes. Ione initially bought this market up to 60%, but strong counterbuying pressure has dropped it down to 23% since. There's a market with 3 possible outcomes. The generalization seemed obvious enough to Asmodia. About whether Caden Kalian is actually backing the project in exchange for a hell that Caden Kalian considers improved, or if Caden Kalian, Pilar's curse, is planning to outright betray the project at some point, or if something else is going on. Nobody seems willing to bet on any outcome besides something else, and it's possible this market may end up being shut down and refunded.
Maritzel thinks there should be a market on some lower-stakes stuff, for practice. Who Keltham will want to sleep with next, or what he'll next lecture on, or whether he'll ask a question about slavery, infanticide, how people get sorted into afterlives, elemental binding other species, which would be helpful for prioritizing practice on their answers for those things.
Asmodia is worried about betting fatigue being a thing, and the extent to which none of them really have much solid information about Keltham the way that security have solid info about people's secret thoughts. But if Maritzel is willing to step forward and say that she has guesses about some of these markets, Asmodia will set them up. Worst case, nobody wants to bet against Maritzel and things get refunded. The Who Will Keltham Sleep With Today market is one that should be run where Keltham can see it, or maybe just see the previous day's results, and he can make sure they're doing it right.
Yes. Keltham will be charmed they're trying the prediction markets thing and will correct them if they've got it wrong. And maybe some of the girls who haven't had much character development can do really well in the markets and get his attention that way.
Gregoria asks if the project is in fact served by more people sleeping with Keltham. It kind of seems like it has enough of that.
We're about to introduce the new students, and some of them were chosen for usefulness for the Keltham Sex Corruption Project, so I do hope he's not tired of variety. I'm not even sure men get tired of variety. You can stop being prickly about it. No one's going to drag you into his bed until he's evil enough to do it himself. I think betting fatigue is a real risk, but I'm most concerned about betting fatigue among us. Security's job is objectively boring 90% of the time, and the former project girls can bet too. Of course, maybe only project girls are any good at betting, but that'd be interesting in itself.
They could try running a policy prediction market on this. Let's say project's chance of continuing past its 2nd month if Keltham sleeps with at most 2 more girls, whichever are most useful for corruption, versus if Keltham sleeps with more girls than that.
I really feel like if anyone has any basis for guessing either way on that, they could just tell me their basis, but sure, let's try it.
Though they're going to have to think up some policy prediction market that Keltham is allowed to know about too, so that the researchers don't seem anomalously familiar with policy prediction markets later.
Carissa has learned not to argue with Asmodia when she says things like that, even though it doesn't seem strictly necessary to her. Could set up a public one on whether, if Keltham proceeds at full speed, some people will have breakdowns about realizing they're made of lies? That looks different in Alter Cheliax, but we should probably figure out what it does look like in Alter Cheliax, now that we've warned him about it.
Asmodia does not want to try to figure out what fake betting patterns on this vital Alter Cheliax issue would look like until she knows what normal betting patterns look like.
Sure, It's the obvious thing Keltham will want information on, though, so they'd better get some harmless markets about how to approach Spellsilver first.
For policy prediction markets, Keltham will want issues where it's not clear what policy will be taken. You can't bet any more on what happens if Keltham proceeds slowly. They already decided to be fast. Unless Sivar is worried that Keltham will say he's reconsidering and run a policy market again. Sure, they can ask Keltham for 2 different things he's considering doing about Spellsilver, so they can practice running a policy market about it. When are the new researchers being brought in, by the by? Asmodia is looking forwards to some parts of that.
Tonight, for secret orientation. The day after will be their apparent arrival as far as Keltham knows.
They're being introduced to Keltham tomorrow? Overnight is a relatively short schedule for Asmodia to finish drilling everyone on real alter differences. Did anyone already tell Keltham that they were going to arrive tomorrow? Asmodia needs to drill them on alter Cheliax's facts. Asmodia needs to make sure they're in exactly the right alternate universe before Keltham meets them. Asmodia needs to make sure that they understand the basic lawful principle that Keltham uses to accumulate events that are at all noticeably less probable or more probable in ordinary versus conspiracy worlds, and that even when Keltham sees something unlikely within conspiracy as he currently imagines it, that narrows down the possible conspiracies he could be inside.
Keltham has not been told when they're arriving, and if her professional recommendation is that it wait longer, it can wait longer. They have in principle been briefed on all that, but Carissa bets they don't in fact understand it.
Then Asmodia will slightly relax, because at least she will not be under deadly time pressure on this particular occasion. Are the newcomers under the lighter punishment regimen immediately? Or should Asmodia light them up when they fuck up in Alter Cheliax drills?
Normal punishments, at least until they're introduced to Keltham. She doesn't want their first introduction to Project Lawful to simultaneously be that it's much more important than anything they've done before, and that they won't be seriously punished for failure.
Good. They should fear making a mess on her wall. Hopefully, Asmodia can get that part done before she knows any of them well enough to start slightly caring about them.
And if they can't handle themselves under pressure, better for that to come to light before they meet Keltham.
PL timestamp. Day 17:13. Still nighttime.
Evening, newcomers. My name is Asmodia. Just Asmodia. I have no family worth mentioning, and don't come from anywhere important enough that I'd want to adopt that as a second name. 18 days ago, I was one of the top students at Ostenso Wizard Academy, Second Circle, and headed to the Worldwound shortly. You, perhaps, are a Worldwound veteran, a cleric of Asmodeus, or the heiress of a county. None of that matters to your standing in Project Lawful. Here, only 3 people in this fortress can override my orders to you, and they are Ferrer Myalol, 5th Circle Priest of Asmodeus, Jacint Subarax, 7th Circle Priest of Asmodeus, and Carissa Savar, also known in certain circles as the Chosen of Asmodeus. Of those 3, the only one who's actually going to override me is Carissa Savar, because she is the only one of those 3 who understands my job well enough to tell me I'm fucking it up. You see that wall behind me, with the writing in green, orange, red, purple, and 1 sentence in black? That's my fucking wall. It's my life, and it's also the life or death of Project Lawful. Written on that wall are the most important things Keltham knows about the alternate world of Alter Cheliax that we're creating for him. Green is for important facts that are true in both real Cheliax and Alter Cheliax. Orange is for things true only of Alter Cheliax that I currently believe we're fairly safe on. Red is where Keltham is asking questions, where he thinks something might be wrong, or where I think he might decide something wrong's later. Purple sentences are places where we haven't told any particular lies. But if Keltham thinks too much in that direction, we still lose, and so nobody is to prompt his thoughts there if possible. Keltham dying in order to meet his god, for example. Black is inconsistency, places where Keltham has been exposed to information that destroys our lie, if he looks in the right place, thinks in the right direction. There's 1 sentence written there in black, we think we got away with it, If Keltham hasn't spotted the moon's wrong phase by now, he's almost certainly never going to. And that sentence in black bought us days of rest and recovery and background work and ability to catch our breath that we all desperately needed. You know why the person who's responsible for that black sentence got away with it? Because she's the queen of Cheliax. If you are responsible for a black sentence going up on my wall, you will not get away with it. You will also not have a good day if you're responsible for a red sentence going up. You will have a check-in with me every single time I write an orange sentence on there that wasn't there before, that I or Carissa Sevar did not tell you to put there. You will possibly have a chat with me if there's a new green sentence on there I end up unhappy about, because every fact like that can no longer be modified or contradicted now that we've told Keltham about them. Unfortunately, we can't all just shut up around Keltham either, because he would notice that. That's not something that happens in Alter Cheliax, see? Anytime your alter self from Alter Cheliax would tell Keltham something, you're going to have to tell him something. If hesitating in Alter Cheliax would be improbable, you will not have time to request and receive orders, and you will need to make something up. Fun, isn't it? If you want to fucking survive, if you don't want your soul torn apart in hell after your death, you will come to me for help before you get into trouble. Is your pride offended that I'm talking to you like this? You think you're above me? And that I'm some petty thing assigned a petty job who's gone mad with the petty power that implies? Then you haven't understood a copper's worth of what Project Lawful is about. My soul is the property of a Count of Hell, last that Cheliax heard of it, and the reason for that is that barons of hell can't afford me. You think you could summon a Count of Hell to buy your soul, because you're heiress of a county, because you're a world-wound veteran. They'd laugh at you and then destroy you. Hell doesn't care for your petty mortal accomplishments. Neither does Project Lawful. My soul got sold before anybody, including Hell, realized how valuable it was going to turn out to be. Now you're going to have to sell an option on your soul to Carissa Sevar before we start making you valuable, enabling her to buy back your soul for not much more than the trivial pittance you'll sell it for, because otherwise, Hell cannot afford to buy you without bankrupting their ability to pay out for other souls in Galarian, as happens to be important for the government of Cheliax to continue operating. That insane price, that incredible value to Hell, reflects what Project Lawful is going to make of you. What Project Lawful has started to make of me, though I'm still a work in progress. It comes from learning the law, mostly from Keltham, but also from me, because I'm the other one besides Keltham who can and will teach it to you. Your county, your service at the World Wound, the soul markets in Dis don't care shit. They care that you might be able to master what gets taught here, period. And in that, there is no mortal of Golarion who is my peer except Carissa Sevar, and only Keltham out of Dath Ilan above us both. You hate me. You're thinking about how to get rid of me? Pray to Asmodeus that you fail. There's a note on my security file from Aspexia Rugaton saying that anybody who manages to lose my services to Cheliax is going to have an incredibly bad time. Which, if you're wondering, is because Aspexia Rugaton has required of me that I train her successor, and even that fate would be a pleasant one compared to what Abrogale Thrune will do to you, in person, followed by speculators in Dis's markets spectacularly angry about lost investments, if you fuck up my job. It will probably occur to you, at some point or another, that I seem to be insane. I'm not going to bother telling you that. If you had my job, you'd go insane too. You wouldn't. You are the cream and elite of Cheliax. You'd approach everything in a calm and professional manner. And then you'd fucking fail. In the unlikely event you could actually do my job, yes, you would also be insane. I've never had much faith inside me, but I like to think that somewhere out there is a goddess in much the same position I am, who has to maintain the real universe against all the fools trying to muck it up. And if so, I have a feeling somehow that whoever that goddess is, she doesn't get much support from Pharasma. The universe I maintain was envisioned and created by Carissa Sevar. She is not in the boneyard. She will not judge you after you die. She is here, judging you now. Evening, newcomers. Welcome to Project Lawful, Fresh Meat. My name is Asmodia, and I'm going to annoy the shit out of you anytime you try to have any fun with this. And you're going to suck it up and take that, because, unlike Pharasma, Sevar is on her fucking job. And Sevar doesn't like it when anyone gets in the way of my job. I've got an even shittier job than that goddess does, in a lot of ways, but at least I've got that. To the left of me, we see Ione Sala, heretic and betrayer of Asmodeus, and now Oracle of Nethys. That part is true only in Real Cheliax, or in Alter Cheliax, that weird, adorable girl touched by Nethys, false, orange, who borrows books from the Ostenso Academy library inside a forbiddance, green. You don't pick on her for any of that, because it presently looks like Nethys is maybe possibly in with Asmodeus on this. Ione gave us 30 seconds of warning about Nidal's assault on the last project site and plausibly saved the entire thing. Your current orders are not to fuck with her. In Alter Cheliax, Ione is the project's Nethesian safety officer, charged by Keltham to make sure we don't hurt ourselves or go insane. She does much the same thing in Real Cheliax. She has zero actual project authority. If she gives you a warning, you should probably listen to her even if she's being smug about it. Ione herself will tell you that she is chosen and blessed of Nethys. She'll also tell you that Nethys is smuggest of the gods, and that it's heresy to suggest that anything cannot or should not explode. If any of you know actual Nethesian theology, you are not allowed to tell her about it, because that, apparently, would be even worse. To the right of me, we see Pilar Pineda, by far the most loyal person to Asmodeus of anyone here, whose soul got misdirected to Elysium and who came back to Cheliax willingly, trusted of Aspexia Rugaton, probably going to be the only sane person left after everybody else on this project goes mad. Heard any rumors about how Project Lawful supposedly cleansed Igorian of spies? That was Pilar. She did it over the course of a day while the rest of us were taking a break. Pilar is the oracle of Caden Caelion. Her oracular curse goes by the name of Snack Service and delivers us cookies, cake, and apparently good advice about how to corrupt Keltham to Asmodeanism. I wish to Pharasma I was joking about any of that, but I'm not. Here we have Meritzel. Meritzel was at the top of our year in Ostenso. Meritzel is the most normal person who has ever fucked Keltham. I would personally bet on Meritzel being the second to last person on this project to go insane. Gregoria, Peranza, Tanya are the next most normal survivors of Project Lawful. They probably have some other personality traits, but I can't be arsed to remember what they are right now. All of them have prices in dis that would buy literally 100 of you. Yaisa, failed Project Lawful girl. Now Keltham's full-time personal whore. Except that around him we call her a sex worker. She's played a minor part in corrupting Keltham. If we pull any of this off and it looks like Yaisa was at all important to the process, she'll end up a duchess somewhere after the new Cheliax conquers Golarion, as will be our standard reward for moderately good service, according to the Queen. Not present are Paxti, Pella, and Yakme, failed Project Lawful girls. They're still around the fortress, and Keltham may check in on them sometimes. Don't fuck with them either, because I say so is fucking why. If you do anything that wouldn't have happened to them in Alter Cheliax, which changes them or their attitude in ways it wouldn't have changed in Alter Cheliax, I'm the one who cleans up your fucking mess. Part of that process will be my making sure you don't create future messes. Now, I'll turn you over to Carissa Sever, World Wound veteran, 4th Circle Wizard in magical capacity, but with spellcraft to match 7th, the first person who spoke to Keltham in Golarion, first of what became known as the Project Lawful Girls, now commander of Project Lawful, lover of Keltham, lover also of Abigail Thrune, sometimes called Chosen of Asmodeus. Sever isn't allowed to sell her soul to hell yet, for some still unknown reason, but the last time she tried, she asked for permanent arcane sight, permanent tongues, 10 pounds of spell silver, and 3 wishes. The devil they summoned said not yet, but tried to lock in that price for future occasions. Welcome to Project Fucking Lawful, you poor fuckers. I haven't even gotten to the really weird parts. Our Nethesian sanity officer warned us that we needed to let the lesser weirdness sink in for a while before we tried to tell you about the tropes. Anyways, Carissa Sivar, the chosen of Asmodeus doesn't usually stand on ceremony, but on this particular occasion, I'd suggest that you fucking kneel. Asmodia walks a few feet to the side and kneels herself, along with everyone else present. With Eagle's splendor still burning in her, she manages to make the motion look as graceful as it should be.
The world that Keltham comes from is richer and more sophisticated than ours, richer and more sophisticated than hell, likely richer and more sophisticated than anywhere known to the greatest powers of our world. The purpose of Project Lawful is to learn the engineering knowledge they possess, to make Cheliacs wealthy and competent to conquer the rest of the world, and to learn the law they possess, to improve on the teaching of devils in hell and perhaps on the teaching of mortals, so that more of them possess the nature to become powerful devils. Keltham, you've been briefed, is a lawful neutral cleric of Abadar. He desires to trade openly and honestly with all who will deal honestly with him. He wants to ensure that the knowledge he has of Dath Ilan benefits everyone in Golarion, not because he thinks of himself as good in his own right, but because he got that knowledge free from Dath Ilan and feels obliged to spend it how they would see fit. Were they here? Dath Ilan is unbearably lawful good, having engineered their society in that direction with every tool you might think of, plus some you did not know were possible, like heritage optimization. This is what makes alter Cheliacs necessary. The real Cheliacs, Keltham would not trade with, and he'd kill himself and go to Osirian if he came to consider it likely he is being deceived. Alter Cheliacs is a harder problem than you think, which is why Asmodia has absolute license to correct and train you in inhabiting it. If Cheliacs were ruled by Abadar, how much would Fifth Circle wizards be paid? You don't know? Keltham wants to know right now. What's your guess? It'd be strange to not have a guess. You might think your guess can't be wrong. After all, nowhere is Cheliacs ruled by Abadar, and so it's the sort of thing that can't be known except maybe somehow to Nethys. But your guess can be inconsistent with what Keltham understands of the productive economic contributions of wizards, and their scarcity, and who pays them, and how many security are assigned to Project Lawful. If your number is too low, then the salaries Keltham has been quoted for the project don't make any sense, and teleportation ought to be more accessible, and it's more suspicious that there isn't immigration to Cheliacs from Osirian or Taldor. If your number is too high, then the logistics of staffing the World Wound don't make any sense, and the expected revenue from spell silver improvements ought to be a lot higher. Why not just give him the real number? Because in Cheliacs, Fifth Circle wizards' needs must have sold their soul, and that wouldn't be true in Alter Cheliacs, and it changes the numbers. Everything is like this. The core art that Dath Ilan teaches is the art of seeing all the world as a single, interconnected web, every strand of which tugs directly or indirectly on every other strand. Dath Ilani are trained in seeing how a tug on one thing, one price, one technology, one number quoted in one book ought to imply things far across the web about governance and intelligence distributions and metal refining. There are no safe lies to Keltham, because we do not know all the content of the lies we're telling, and there are no safe truths, because truth is entangled with the fact that Cheliacs is run by Asmodeus and not by Abadar. Dath Ilan is probably run by an evil conspiracy of its own, of course. But we cannot contact them, and if we could, they'd crush us utterly and repurpose us to their own ends, whatever they are. There are a number of errors I anticipate from new additions to this project. One is reasoning too much about why all of the absurd, scary things you've been told are less absurd or less scary and should not transform all your thinking quite as much as they might look like they should. You might reason, for example, that every secret project in Cheliacs probably had ambitions of world domination, that the stakes are probably not quite as high as that, that hell might tell us falsely of our great value, that nothing you hear is ever really true, and so nothing I say should really sway you all that far from whatever posture you walked in with. The last time I spoke of the unique importance of this project and the unimaginable rewards for successful service. Her Majesty arrived to confirm that the project was as important as claimed and the rewards as real. It is my sincere hope that we will not need to repeatedly waste her time because no one can believe the stakes are real without her personal attention. You will have to unlearn the habit of not believing things. I will assist you in that by not saying them unless they are true. Lies are the poor substitute that Cheliax uses on people too stupid to make correct inferences from the truth anyway, employed by people themselves too stupid to think of truth and lies as fundamentally different things. On Project Lawful, we are attempting to make you competent to make correct inferences from the truth, and that requires telling it. You may have heard that there is a lot of heresy on Project Lawful. There is more than you thought, even after Asmodia just introduced you to our resident Nethesian and our resident cursed by Caden Kalian. The core heresy of Project Lawful is this. The project is premised on the idea that some people can think true things, unabashed, untrained in hiding from all their thoughts with frightening implications, possessed with real competence at thinking, and still be Asmodeans. That means that you are going to have to try thinking, and some of your thoughts will be heresy, and you will have to keep thinking instead of stopping. This is definitely going to destroy some of you. Those more pessimistic, then I think it will destroy all of us in the end, except Pilar. Even if it is so that people can think true things and still be Asmodeans, no one has yet tried to construct an Asmodeanism made up entirely of true things, and you'll find yourself believing a bunch of nonsense that doesn't hold together, and then some of you will panic and throw it out. I'm pretty sure there is a beautiful, consistent, comprehensible truth on the other side, and I am perhaps chosen by Asmodeus for this work, and I still sometimes find myself lost in what are definitely heresies in Asmodeus's sight. The important thing is to keep in mind that errors, while they will be consistently corrected, are only catastrophic if they happen in Keltham's view. Your minds are being constantly read, your loyalty is being closely monitored, but your punishments will be tailored narrowly towards improving your performance, so long as your errors are not deliberate betrayals. You are valuable. I will soon own the rights to your souls. I want you to be stronger and better. I want you to be the best of Cheliax and to grow into the best of hell. Another error I anticipate is getting too excited to be in a high-stakes project for the fate of the world and perhaps also hell, and coming to think of yourself as the main character of such a story. Part of the project is seducing Keltham so as to show him what Asmodeanism has to offer that Abadar does not. Power and cruelty and service not traded for at market rates, but won and held. If everyone is seeking their individual importance, then many of you, like many of the original girls, will throw yourselves at Keltham, seeking to be the one who awakens him to Asmodeanism. If that is not what you would do in Alter Cheliax, you must not do it. If you don't actually find him attractive, you must not do it. Until you've satisfied us, you understand Alter Cheliax fully, seducing Keltham, or trying to have an interesting backstory for him, must meet my and Asmodia's approval. You may not present to Keltham a face any stranger than you have in the real world, adjusted for Alter Cheliax frequencies of traits occurring. He will be suspicious if everyone around him seems to want him. When they weren't selected for that, if everyone around him has interesting traits that ought, by rights, to be very rare. Many of you will sit in the back of the classroom, do the math exercises, do a good job and ask insightful questions, and never feature in a single report to Agorian. This is a commendable trajectory. You will be amply rewarded for it, and it is much, much better than trying to get Keltham's attention and fucking up. The final possibility I anticipate is betrayal. Errors we are attempting to handle with a light hand because you are valuable, and it is our desire to preserve your value. You will be corrected because it is important that you be right. You will learn and improve, and, hopefully, you will play your part in strengthening Cheliax and Hell. If something is necessary for your growth and confidence and success, you are reasonably likely to get it. If you deliberately and intentionally try to sell this project out, self-interest and consideration for your value will take a back seat to ensuring that you regret that as much as it is possible for you, or for a lump of bleeding flesh with distant memories of being you, to regret anything. Other countries would love Keltham and would pay you generously to deliver him. You will not survive trying that, and if you somehow do, Hell will still make sure when you reach them that it was not worth it. Her Majesty has arranged already that anyone who intentionally betrays this project will suffer as much as possible, forever, even if this cuts into the profit Hell would otherwise have of you. I don't expect you to believe this. Even after I just said that on this project, I won't lie to you, but I say that because I dislike it. One of my own pet heresies is that Hell is wasteful and could make better use of even the most contemptible and useless of souls. I do not desire that anyone make the kind of mistake for which you will suffer forever. It is not a fate I will condemn you to gladly. I am warning you so that you can avoid that. It is absolutely an order I will give if you do betray us. If I got squeamish, Her Infernal Majesty would order it for me, and I don't like wasting her time. Are there any questions?
Security reports that they have rather a lot of internal questions, with several people thinking things along the lines of, I'm already thinking true things and am a good Asmodean. This is even more heresy than I was personally warned by the Most High to expect, some amount of nervousness by those who came more voluntarily that they have in fact made poor life choices, and nobody who thinks it especially prudent to voice any of those questions out loud in context. Most of them are planning to feel out other project members to determine if they can how they are meant to react to all this, rather than directly confronting Sevar about anything, which would be merely stupid. Nobody is planning any overt disobedience, which would also be merely stupid. It has been successfully pressed into them that Cheliax considers this project important, and they are not to fuck it up. If nothing else, the fact that Sevar is still alive after saying all this in front of security is making an impression.
About as good as you can expect, really. All yours, she says to Asmodea and heads out. She'll still watch, obviously, but they'll be more able to learn, not in the presence of someone they've just been informed is very important.
If you wish to support this AI reading and others like it, please visit patreon.com/AskWhoCastsAI. Any help is appreciated. And thank you to executive producer John Doe 7776059.